Our Adaf Mem Aleph Amid Beis. So let's say the shliach didn't know how much truma to give, and instead of being mafresh 1/50, which is Beinanis, Piches Hasara, he only gave 1/40, which is Ayin. He gave 1/40, which is Ayin Yafa, or Hosef Hasara, or he gave 1/60, which is Ayin Ra. So what's the deal now? So when the Baal Bais comes and he finds out, and he says, this was not my das. I didn't want to give such a shear. Truma so truma. Nevertheless, the truma is chal. Because the shliach claims that this is the way he evaluated the das of the Baal Bais. So the Gemara says, Minolan. How do we derive the conclusion that shluchos shalom kamoso, even as far as Hafrashas truma? And when he's mafresh, the shliach is mafresh truma from Paris to the Baal Bais, there's a chalos shem truma. And what it means is that the das of the shliach generates the chalos, and the das of the Baal is completely betela. Now, when the Mishnah says in the Reisha, Homer Shuchot Sevi, Trom, Torim Kedas Baal Bais, you see the shlichus, the Truma, but the Gemara brings the next part of the Mishnah as well, because in the Reisha, when the Shliach was Torim Kedas Baal Bais, you could say the reason why the Maisa of the Shliach is meaningful and valid is because the Bailim were machaving them machshava and the rotzon for whatever the shliach does. And in our first truma, the machshava is enough, as we'll soon see, to effectuate truma. So really, the kriyat shem is being done by the bailim. Shliach is only doing the ma'is hafrosha. That's as far as the ratio is concerned. But in the sefer, we're talking about a case where the bailim are not happy with the ma'is shliach. And therefore, this was not their machshava at the time that they appointed the shliach. So why then is the truma chal? It means that the shliach has a koach to be mafresh truma like he's the bailim. And this is the chiddush of the sefer HaMakim. So once again, as we said earlier, the das of the shliach generates the chalos, and botla dat habaylim, das habaylim. Masechet in the Reisha, there the shliach is not generating the chalos truma, but rather he's doing a technical action and nothing more. And the chalos truma was generated by the Baal through his machshava. And that's based on the fact that truma is chal v'machshava. So more now wants to bring a source for this. V'chi tema the yolf migerishin. That just like the shlichus in Gerish, so too there should be shlichus in Truma. I'm going to completely deflect that. There's no analogy here between Gerishin and Truma. Mali Gerishin shekem yesh nachol. Gerishin is divrei chulin, and the Torah is always more mekil in dinei chulin than divrei hegdish, and therefore we could argue that the Torah is mekil in divrei chulin, such that there will be a chalos through a shliach, but a truma is kodesh, and it's very possible that the Torah would not recognize chalos truma unless the Baal Bais himself is mafresh truma. So it means now the Gemara is saying that the ikar chalos is generated by the Maisa, And regarding that Maisa, the Torah was Machadish, the Parsha of Shlichus. So in Gerushin, where the Gerushin is effectuated by the Maisa Shliach, by the Maisa Gerushin, so the Shliach is now Poel Gerushin through his Maisa as a Shliach. But in Truma, it seems that the Chalas Shem Truma is generated by the Das. And how do we know that there's a din of Shlichus or a Koach of Shlichus in a case of Das? He writes in the Masechet that in the Gemara's Kasha Yitochen, the Gemara is raising the possibility Shalom Tochel Truma El Bafroshas Balabais Bi'atzma. So our answers on Makra with regard to Truma, it says, Kain Tarimu Gam Atem, Truma Hashem, Bamidbar Perek Yidches. So the din of Afroshas Truma, we're going to derive not only the Shlichus, but Gam Atem. If we would have said Kain Tarimu Atem, that's one thing. But Gam Atem, the Gam is totally superfluous. L'rabos es hashliach. That even with the Afroshas Hashliach, there's a Chalos Shem Truma, and you don't require Dafka, the Afrosh of the Baal Bayis. So now the Gemara wants to explain why we need a pasuk to teach us shlichus and kiddushin and gerus. V'nichtar Rahmanu v'truma. Once the Torah has atem gam atem, shluchos shalom k'motza and truma is neisur hanach v'nigrede. Why don't we derive gerus and kiddushin from shlichus and truma? And the Gemara answers mishum dikla mifrach shekain yeshna v'machshava. Maybe the reason why truma is effective is not because the Maisa Shliach is like the Maisa Bailim and it generates the Chalos, no. But rather, Truma is b'machshava without a Maisa Afrosh. So it's very easy to effectuate Truma. I mean, all you need is machshava. And therefore the din is that you can be mechil a Chalos Shem Truma even through a Shliach. But Gerus and Kiddushin is not so. We don't have halacha machshava, so we don't really know that shlichus will be operative. V'hadisnani, you'll ask me from a Mishnah Psachim, Tzadik Chesed Beis, Chabur Shavet Pischa, V'yomru echad sei ubakesh ushchot aleinu, v'holach u'motza v'shachat. So he shechted the Korban Pesach on behalf of the Bnei Chavura, as they commanded him. The Hain and the Bnei Chavura, they don't know if the Shliach actually found their behema. They didn't wait until that was clarified. V'lokhu, they took a second behema, v'shachtu, and they shechted it for Korban Pesach. And then, lo and behold, in Mishalo, Nishchat Rishon. If the Shliach, if the Korban Pesach that was found by the Shliach is Nishchat Rishon, and since the Bnei Chavura have all appointed him as their Shliach to shech the animal, as a Korban, is memela, they are considered menuyim ala karma. And therefore they don't have to be menuyim on a different karma. It's who ochel mishalo. The shliach eats from his own. Vehem ochel mishosim imo. And the carbon that was shechted is going to be burnt like a Pesach she'ein lo bailim. So Gemara asks me, no, how do we know shulchan shalom kemoso? Even with regard to shchitas kodshim, such that the shliach could shech on behalf of the bailim their karbanos that the bailim are chayiv to bring. So the Gemara says, Minayan, how do we know shulchan shalom kemoso? We have, in the case of Korban Pesach. So wait a second, let's just go back for a second. V'nichtov rachmana b'truma, v'nesu hana v'nigmar minei. So the Torah could have chosen truma and teach us that shlichus works in truma. Why do we need v'shalach v'shilcha from Gerish and Kiddushin? As we said before, truma is chal b'machshava. It's easier to generate a chalos truma, and therefore the Torah accepted shlichus. But we don't know about Gerish and Kiddushin, which requires a ma'isa. But this not b'nei chabur shavet pischa yamru li'echad say u'bakesh shchot alein v'olach u'motza v'shachat v'hein v'lokhu v'shachatu im shalom nishchat mishon ochel mishalom im ochel shosim is minolan. How do we know that shulchan shalom also works even for shchitas kodshim, and the shliach could go ahead and shlech on behalf of the bailam and the karbonos? Maybe we should derive shlichus in shchita from shlichus and truma or gerushin. Malahanach, we could deflect that because it came yeshnam chol eitzel kodshim, truma and gerushin regard in relationship to kodshim, relative to kodshim, are considered divrei chulin, because even truma, which is kodesh, but nevertheless relative to kodshim, is considered like a davar chol. And in general, in Kol Dinei Torah, we're more mekil in chulin than we are in kodesh. So maybe we should say the Torah was mekil in regard to gerushin and shchit and truma, because relative to shchitas kodshim, they're considered kal, they're considered chulin. So we could say here that chol here in this Kamosh Kenyeshlam chol means there's a chalos, and the Mishaleach gives over bailus on creating the chalos, but in kodshim we need shchitas abayla. So where it says nafkalei mider Rav Yishuv ben Korcham Rav Yishuv ben Korcham minayin shulchan shalom koshenema. In the Parsha Shchitas Korban Pesach, in Parshas Bo, it says v'shachatu also kol kahal adas Yisrael bein arbaim. And it would seem that each person, each member of the kol, has a personal obligation to shech the korban. So v'chi kol hakol kulam shochtim. Can we say that they're all shechting the korban? Below eino shochet ela echad. Only one person is shechting. So when one member of the kol is shechting, he is a shliach on behalf of all the members of the kol. So the Gemara now asks, so why do we need gerushin and truma to teach me shlichus? Why not just derive from kodshim? And the Gemara answers, most of the avodas are done through shliach, like kabbalas adam, zrikas adam, etc. is done dafka al yidei shliach. He's the kohen. and a zar is joined from any of these avodos. So therefore, even in shchita, which is ksher v'zar, shlichus is meaningful. But gerushin and truma, where we don't find them, lo matzina b'hem din shlichus klal, we're not going to derive from kodshim. Because kodshim is rov maseim al yidei shliach. So Gemara answers, chada michada lo asya teisei chada mitarta. So although we have gerushin, truma, and kodshim, but perhaps we could join forces of two out of the three and derive the third, hey teisei. Which can we derive from two? If lo nichtav kodshim teisei mehanach, you can't say that we're going to double up gerushin from truma to teach kodshim, because as we said before, is yesh no choles of kodshim. Ma lahanach shekain yesh no choles of kodshim. Hello, we're going to say lo nichtav ramon of gerushin v'teina mehanach. Maybe so we'll derive from the shlichus of kodshim and truma that will derive gerushin. Ma lahanach shekain yesh no machshav. And what does that mean? Both kodshim and truma are isa b'machshava. You can be mafresh and makdish through machshava. So there, the Torah allows for shlichus. But gerushin, it's not chal without a ma'aseh gerushin. So maybe the Torah would not allow shlichus. Torah was more large, so to speak, regarding kodshim and truma. Maybe the Torah could have dropped the limit of shlichus and truma of atam gamatim and derived from these two, from gerushin and kodshim. Or it says halchinami. You're right. Torah didn't have to write shlichus and truma. Atem gamatim lami. So why the extra gamatim? The Omer Rav Yanai atem gam atem moa atem b'nei bris af shluchachem mi b'nei bris. So a guy cannot be sent to shliach to be mafresh truma. Effectively, Mar Halam Likra, Mir Rav Chia bar Abba, Rav Yochanan Nafka. Let's derive from Rav Chia bar Abba. Eino Eved Eviknani Nasa Shliach LeKabel Esket Mi Ishto Miad Baila. Shal Isha, Lafisha in Vitoris Git the Kiddushin. Why do we need Rabbi Yanai and the derivation from Gam Atem for Bnei Bris? We could derive it from the statement of Rabbi Yochanan that an Eved, meaning an Eved Knani, cannot become a Shliach to be makabel get from the Baal of an Isha on behalf of the Isha, because he's not Torah's Gittin and Kiddushin. He's not shaykh at all in Torah's Gittin and Kiddushin, and Kiddushin Tosim B'Yevit. So we see and we learn from this that a person cannot become a Shliach if he's not shaykh in that Asiyah. And therefore in Truma, since the guy is not shaykh HaFrosh Truma, he cannot become a Shliach on behalf of Jewish Bailam to be Mafresh Truma. So why do you need the Torah to be reminded explicitly from Atem Gam Atem? It's certainly more answers. We need that the Torah should write explicitly that a guy cannot become a shliach of mafresh tshuva, because from the din of Rabbi Chia bar Abba in the name of Yochanan Bilvad, only if we had that in, we could derive that conclusion. Salkadat Kamina, we would say that Eved Bar Teruhu Klal, he can't be Matur Neshus Ish at all because he doesn't have Kiddushin, so he can't be Megarish's wife. There is truma of a guy and even though he's not chayav in truma, obviously, but if he went ahead and he was mafresh, there's a chalosh shem truma. It's also lizar tisnan ovi kocham akusi shetarmu truma son truma. Is therefore a mashliach nami of it. So if a guy can become a shliach of Yisrael to be mafresh truma, and the truma is chal, and it's also lazorim, then maybe he can make a shliach as well. The guy can make a shliach. Or shall we say the guy can serve as a shliach, and Israel could appoint a guy as a shliach. Kamash Malan, that's what Rabbi Yani wants to teach me, that we derive from Gamatem, that a guy cannot become a shliach for truma. The Gemara says, well, wait a minute, according to Reb Shimon, we need a special limud that shlichus works for truma, the Shimon the Potar. Reb Shimon disagrees with Chacham, and he holds that a guy that was mafresh truma, it's not a chalos truma, and anyone who eats from it is potter from chomesh. It's not truma salvikochavim midamas. If a guy was mafresh truma and it got mixed up with chulin, and in the chulin you don't have 100 times the truma, then this tarovis is also kidin truma. If a zar eats it, he's got to pay the kohen an additional tashlumi keren. In addition to the keren, he's got to pay him a chomesh. Rav Shimon Poter. Shimon says the zar doesn't have to pay tashlumi chomesh. So according to Rav Shimon, the Raisa, the truma that was mafresh, that was mufresh al yedei goy is not chal at all. And since the goy has no shaychus in afrosh truma, he cannot be a shliach to be mafresh truma. So therefore, according to Rav Shimon, we're going to ask the kasha, atem gamatem lomali. And the Gemara is itzich asal kedat kamina hoil vi omar mar. In the Bryce it says atem lo arisa, atem lo shutfim, atem lo afichopos, atem lo tormis eshen shalom. Is ema atem lo shulchachem nami. If you're coming to exclude a shliach, the word atem is coming to tell you that dafka the balatfua, he can be mafresh truma, but not an oris, not a shutaf, not an apotropis, and eino them yochel afresh truma mitfua shel chavera. So since all these were excluded, maybe ema atem lo shulchachem nami, and it's coming to exclude your shliach, and he cannot be mafresh your truma. Called mashmalon, if the Torah had to have the word gam to be marbe the shliach. Ha nichla Rabbi Shimon korcha. He darshans from the pasuk v'shacha to also called kaladas Yisrael that shlucho shalom kemoso el Rabbi Yonas to mapik le'mei krolu Josh Achrina. He used that pasuk of shach to also called kaladas. So for some other drush minolan, how does he derive shlichus in kodshim? This Sanya the Gemara answers, Rabbi Yonasan, oh, minayin shekol Yisrael kulam b'Pesach echad, that all of Klal Yisrael could be yotzei their chiyuv of Korban Pesach with one keves that was shechted for all of Klal Yisrael, even if it's not possible that each one would end up with a shear of a kizayis for achila. And here we are on the top of Daf Mem Beis. Shenemar, it says, with regard to Shchitas Korban Pesach, Shachatu, also called Kol Al Yisrael Bein Rabbaim. He called Kulum Kiddushin, Shochatim. V'lo ein Shochet Ela Echad, Ela Mikan Shekol Yisrael Yotzim Pesach Echad. And even though you don't have a share of kizayis for achilu for each one, but achilu is not makeves in the Korban Pesach. It's not critical. and it's enough that the Kohen was Zorik as a Dam L'Shem Kol Echad Me'Menuyin. So since Rabbi Yonasan derived this dimmi from the pasuk called Kaladas Yisrael Shliach V'Kodesh Minole, from whence is it derived that Shlichus in Shchitas Kodshim is meaningful. Pasuk doesn't come to teach me the din of Shlichus; it's coming to teach me a different din. So how are we going to know that Shlichus is meaningful and operates in Kodshim? And the Gemara wants to suggest that we're going to derive Shlichus and Kodshim from Yonasan, Mineh, from this pasuk itself. Even though Rabbi Yonasan derived from this pasuk that call Yisrael Yosef Pesach Echad, we can still derive from this pasuk also the din of Shlichus in Kodshim. And even if all of Israel can be Yotze with one Pesach, Adayin lo yitochen shekulam yishchechtu biyachad. It's not possible that they all should shecht it together, so therefore we must derive the conclusion that one person shechts it for all of them, and it's operative midin shlichus. Okay, then, so here we'll stop on the top of Mem Beis Amid Aleph.